We have some breaking news tonight on Flight 370, a joint statement from Malaysia and Inmarsat about the long-awaited raw satellite data. My panel of experts here, Jeff Wise, a CNN aviation expert and author of Extreme Fear, The Science of Your Mind in Danger. David Susi, CNN safety analyst and author of Why Planes Crash. And here with me in studio in the hot seat is Jules Jaffe, research oceanographer at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography. Jules, a little bit more, because you've seen all this information that's supposed to come out now. Do you think that this is going to change? Because we've been looking basically in the same place because of this Inmarsat data. Do you think this will change that and we'll start to look into new places?
Well, you know, it's hard to know. I mean, what we really like to have as many smart people working on this problem as possible. And so making the data available in a more public type of venue will just facilitate that process. So it's really hard to know, but in the least, if the same conclusions are basically concluded by people looking at this data, other experts will feel more confident that we're looking in the right place.
Yeah. So there have been people who have suggested that the best way to look now, because you know the bluefin is off doing something and being repaired and lots of things are happening, the best way to look for this plane is to let a piece of debris wash up on shore and then trace it back to where it possibly came from. Do you think that is the best way of doing that?
No, not really. I mean, it seems like, you know, one of the things that we know about the ocean and that makes it so interesting from a scientific point of view is the variability. Mm-hmm. I mean, you get these big storms blowing in and the currents change. And to make an assumption that this ocean is going to be exactly the same as it was 2 months ago seems to me to be somewhat trans-scientific. I would like to talk to a bunch of physical oceanographers.
Yeah, my question is, do you think, and I've been, you know, I've had you on several times.
Sure.
But do you think this plane is in the southern Indian Ocean? Do you think, and all this information that we have gotten from Inmarsat, this is the #1 probability, do you think it's actually there or we're looking in the wrong location?
I'm hoping that it's there, and I know I'm not answering your question.
You're not. I was just going to say, that doesn't answer my question.
I'm a scientist, right? So the facts are we have these equations. You saw the two trajectories. Right. Smarter people than I at this are making that conclusion, and so I hope so, Don, but I can't say for sure. You know, I mean, you know.
What does your gut tell you?
My gut tells me that's probably where it is, and I'm hoping that that's where it is.
So the best technology to use to find it, because as I said, the bluefin is being repaired.
Right.
Yeah, so what's the best technology, you think?
Well, you know, people who do this kind of work use exactly that technology. I mean, there's been some discussions about other technologies. Should we have a towed system? Can we work 24/7 with that system? We'd have more power. But the reality is, imagine yourself driving through a mountain range.
Right.
Or flying a kite at 6 miles, right? Mm-hmm. If we have a 6-mile cable and we're towing this thing around through a mountain range, the vehicles have the capability of tracking the bottom. And so they can actually keep a fixed distance of the bottom. They actually use more high-resolution technology. The sonars give us more precise resolution. And so I think, you know, what I think in my community of people who I've reached out to since I've been on your show so many times, have all agreed that the autonomous underwater vehicles, the deep diving autonomous underwater vehicles, are the right way to solve this problem.
All right, apparently we were having trouble with NARA. Let's get back to my panel now. Jules Jaffe, David Susi, and Jeff Wise. You know, and we'll try to work on getting NARA, and he's joined us a couple of times here. You know, you've worked firsthand with the search for Titanic.
Right.
There is a real pressure to find out what happened to this plane because of the families here. There's a real responsibility here. With this data coming out, with all the information we have, are we any closer 3 months later?
It's sad, and I agree that the losses of the people whose family and friends were on that plane need to be resolved. But I don't think so. I mean, the only thing we really know now is that there's 100 square miles in the Indian Ocean where it isn't.
Right.
That's the fact.
Right. We talked about the bluefin being under repairs, and then there is a Chinese ship that's going to be sent in the search area to map the ocean floor. If you were in charge, is this where you would be heading, or would you be doing something different?
Well, I think if we're going to be continuing these autonomous vehicle operations, what we really need to understand is the topography of the sea floor. Mm-hmm. And although it's unbelievable and somewhat fascinating to people who don't study the ocean, we just don't have a clue as to what most of the ocean floor looks like. I mean, the planet has been mapped very, very poorly. So if the Chinese go out and look and figure out what the topography, you know, where the canyons are, where the hills are, I think that's going to help in the search, because depending upon the different types of technologies that we can use, that will be good information. It'll get the lay of the land, in other words, so then we can figure out a strategy for exploring it.
15 seconds left here, Jules. I want to ask you this, because someone says, this is Omar says, someday the truth about MH370 will come to light, and it's probably stranger than fiction. You think you know your government, responding to the former Malaysian Prime Minister? You think you know your government? What do you think? Do I think again? That's what he says.
Think about the Malaysian government and whether they know about it, you mean? It's hard to know. There's politics, there's compassion, there's science and engineering.
Yeah.
They don't always overlap.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, David. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jules.
My pleasure.
Appreciate you all joining me tonight here on CNN Tonight. That's it for me. I'm Don Lemon. AC 360 starts right now.